As the life of the Quest 3 is moving forward and we're talking more about a Quest 3 Lite coming to replace the 2, there's another goodbye coming to the Quest 1. Beat Saber dropped its new OST 7, that's Original Soundtrack 7, which is free tracks they drop every so often, and they said that this is the last one they will be dropping going over to the Quest 1. We already knew that support to the Quest 1 was cut. It still worked, but more and more games aren't becoming available on it, new games aren't being available, and multiplayer games have been dropping off support, but now this looks like another one to the farewell and goodbye to the Quest 1. I actually saw a post over on Twitter of somebody saying how they felt old because they know what the Quest 1 and other people were asking for help figuring out what the Quest 1 was online even. The Quest 1 was a truly revolutionary headset, being fully wireless, standalone, and when it first came out it wasn't also available as PCVR, although I had said at the time I thought it was probably going to have that enabled later, and then sure enough the link cable came out. It still works decently well, a lot of people say, as a PCVR headset because Steam and everything is fully compatible, but more and more games are dropping off for the Quest 1. Makes me wonder at this point, how many of you out there still have a Quest 1? Do you have it as a secondary headset to whatever you use now? And if you do have one, are you going to try to sell it at this point, or are you hanging on to it for one day the value actually goes back up like we see with the N64s and stuff now? Speaking of old tech like the N64, do you remember the trends where they offered different colored editions of those? We still haven't seen much of that in VR yet, but Meta keeps making these clear limited edition ones only for the employees who actually worked on the headsets. Boz recently showed a photo on a flight, obviously in first class of course, because how else would he fly, wearing a Quest 3 with a completely clear shell to where you can see the internals of the headset. I think this is a cool option. I don't know if I would personally buy one of these, but I think it's really neat, especially for like teardown channels that have an idea what they were going in after. It's not something I feel like we see much in mainstream tech anymore, but it is a neat idea that they do a few of these, although they're so limited. These are only some of the employees, and this isn't the first time we actually saw this even with the Quest Pro, and there was even some demos done originally with different colored editions of the Quest that were never meant to make it to the public. I just wonder how long it'll be before we start seeing these things show up on eBay for some ridiculous price. But I wonder if they did offer the Quest in different colors, what color would you get? Or would you like to see some sort of clear variant like this? I feel like we just keep going back and forth between Quest headsets and VR headsets being black, white, or black and white, some sort of mix. So I think that if they offered a black Quest 3, it probably wouldn't prompt a whole lot more sales, but I think people would at least opt to buy that over the white one, just because it might not get as dirty looking. Personally, I'm happy with the white edition for now, but if a clear one ever became available, I think I might get it just kind of as a collector's edition to keep. As we're continuing to see more headsets implement new ways of utilizing pass-through, whether having 2D windows pinned up or multiple windows of different apps, we're seeing even Valve testing a panel mode for Steam Link on Meta Quest. Now this is in beta in the version of Steam Link, so you're not going to see this automatically unless you are opted into that beta, but basically now if you want to play 2D games, they're going to show up directly in your environment instead of taking you into a separate window somewhere. So now you can pull up a 2D game, stream it to your headset, and still see your pass-through or whatever environment around you want. Currently that beta channel is at its limit though, so you may have to wait to get in if you're interested, but VR journalists are talking about it. Sadly, it's Bradley Luna over on Twitter talking about how they really like it. It's adding some minor latency, but the feedback so far, especially from Luna, is that they'd like to see it go full screen, hiding some of the other windows, so that way you're really just immersed in your environment, feeling like you're playing video games outside somewhere. 2D stuff on my headset isn't something I do a lot outside of, very occasionally Netflix or something we were just talking about in the last news, or YouTube VR and pass through while I'm doing other stuff around me. But it's cool to see this happening more and more, and I actually saw a recent report that some of the top most used apps on the Quest, surprisingly, even including games, were ones where people are using pass through while doing other things like productivity or watching YouTube. So it shows that there is a really big market for this going on. Do you ever use your headset and pass through while you're doing other stuff and watch stuff or work on it? Let me know. Things are going so great here on the channel that we are still celebrating with all of you, doing some giveaways. We just had the May giveaways end. We had a winner in Australia and one in the UK, but we've got a couple new ones going on right now. So if you somehow missed that, there will be links in the comments and description down below. We got the Quest 3, we brought back the Quest 2 by popular demand, and then Bobo VR is doing another accessories package round with us. So there's all different things to enter, and they're new ones, so a lot less people have entered in them so far. If you want to get entered, make sure and go check those out. And let me know what other things you'd like to see. We had one winner who was actually a VR developer who didn't really need a Quest 2. We just hooked him up with some of our old headsets to kind of help them out in their VR development journey. And then we also actually just had a local in-person giveaway here near where we're at in Portland, Oregon, and that went really well. There'll be a full video of that, but we actually had quite a turnout of people. They got to each go through over 4 rounds of picking out all the different accessories that we had piled up over time. It helped us clean house, it helped people get a lot of new accessories, and I just got to meet and hang out with with a bunch of you, which was really fun. So keep an eye out for that full video. Over in the world of social VR online apps, we had some sad news this last week when VR Chat, probably the biggest social app in the world, said that they had to reduce the size of their team by 30%. This is sad to hear, but not unusual at all, as we've been talking about Facebook and Meta layoffs, Microsoft layoffs over the last couple of years. A lot of tech companies grew rapidly during the pandemic when people were stuck inside. And as people have gotten the opportunity to go back outside, go to work at different locations again, there has been less demand for that. In an article over on Mixed News, they said basically that VR Chat had the same fate. They had hired too many people during the pandemic, and then in 2022, the growth of VR Chat, and as we all saw, VR in general really slowed back down. But 30% is a big decrease for a company in the tech industry. Hopefully, as VR Chat still does remain popular and is still available now on basically every platform, not just VR, these people will be able to find other spots in the VR industry, or maybe it'll help other developing companies that are trying to get bigger hire some really good talent. If you are one of those developers or those companies out there looking for people, this might be a good time to go look at people who had VR Chat on their resume. And speaking of social VR apps, Meta's own basically version of VR Chat, Meta Horizon Worlds, is now up to version 166 as they continue updating these. They're adding some general life improvements, some easier meetup invite links. They're bringing more of the worlds that are on VR over to web and mobile versions of the app. And it's surprising to me out at conventions and stuff when I talk to people about VR, more and more I am hearing Horizon Worlds brought up, whether people are just hanging out in it socially, whether they're using its companion workrooms for working in. It seems like Meta's just going to continue to bet on this whole Horizon name and platform as it is, especially as they change the operating system name over to Horizon. But we've been talking about other things on the news recently. They put a comedy series, horror shows. They are putting a lot into Horizon Worlds. So it seems like they're really betting that this is going to continue to expand and be a big ecosystem in the world of VR. What do you think? We've seen the Meta Quest adapt different features as more competition has entered the market, whether that was things way before like pancake lenses or things like spatial photos, panoramic photos now being integrated into the system. And we might be seeing some more of that here soon with Apple announcing their Vision OS 2.0 and a whole slew of features that's coming with it. There's a lot to it. We're going to try and run through these quickly here. So basically, Apple just had their big conference. They said that Vision OS 2.0 is coming and is going to improve or add all kinds of features to the headset. We're seeing things like improved scene understanding. The hand tracking is going to get less latency, as we saw before in the comparison with the Quest 3. That was quite a difference as far as how the hands kept up. A feature they didn't actually announce in the main WWDC keynote, but the Apple engineers talked about, is the fact that it's going to be able to track 3D objects now that app developers actually pre-specify into their apps. They mentioned how for things like museums, this could make for really cool effects for people wearing headsets where you see like a real life globe changing in front of you, showing the inside of the Earth or showing the moon orbiting it around it. Depending on what country you're in, you may have already been able to pre-order, or you'll be able to pre-order by June 28th, but we're talking mainland China, Hong Kong, Japan, Australia, Canada, France, Germany, the UK. So it is going at least somewhat worldwide now. A very weird feature where you can print what you see virtually in real life. So you can take an object that you see virtually and print it on a printer. They show a demonstration with a Nicolas Cage photo of all things. That dude has just become a meme at this point. And they talk about how they want to make for new immersive content, even a short film that's coming specifically to the Apple Vision Pro. There's a bit more if you want to watch the keynote or read a full breakdown. I'll leave one of those down below for you. But it's also causing some interesting thing where new cameras are getting a bit more attention because people are talking about using them specifically for Apple now, from just lenses that can slap onto a Canon to one of the most retro looking on the shoulder kind of camcorders with dual lenses again. It's interesting to see what all's changing due to Apple finally entering the space. With that, there's a lot of big things going on in the VR world and a lot happening here at home. If you've been following, you know we're here in the new studio space. It's not set up. You can probably tell the audio is still a little different. Video, we're still getting all the kinks worked out. On top of that, we've got another person coming on to help us out on the JayBratt team, actually flying across the country this next week. So watch out for some more details on all of that. But it's thanks to all of you out there. Once again, thank you so much. I'll see you in another reality.